I did rest coaching during this time, and I didn't know what it was when I did it. And I was asked, beyond sleep, where do you need to rest? And within the first 10 minutes of the session, and we were going through a meditation and things of that nature, I was already in tears. I was already in tears. Hi, friends, and welcome to the Next Best Thing podcast. I'm your host, Aundrea Cline-Thomas. Now, I'm here to help you strategically navigate all of your career and life transitions. And as we like to say around here, a pivot and a plan B are not required. Now, before we dive in, if you could please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Not only will it ensure that you never miss another episode, it helps others get access to this great content. Also, do you know we have a newsletter? It's called Next Nuggets, delivered to your email inbox every other week. In there, we share gems from this podcast and provide you with additional resources to get you from where you are to where you hope to be. Now just go to the nextbestthingact.com. Again, the nextbestthingact.com. Scroll to the bottom and sign up. We will put a link in the show notes. Now, it has been some time since we've chatted, y'all, and so much has happened in between then. Just 2 weeks ago, we had Dr. Tama Bryant on the podcast, y'all. She was on my wish list. I reached out to her, and it took about a few months for me to be able to secure the interview. So we did the interview in October, and I held it until the week of Thanksgiving, because that's when people feel stressed. They're with their family, which can be triggering. You know, the holidays can be difficult for people. And if you're like me, you're also already planning for the future. You're planning for the new year. So I thought that Dr. Tama could absolutely provide so much guidance. But what I was not expecting was this response. Dr. Tama shared the first clip that I put on Instagram just to promote the episode. And let me tell you what, the floodgates opened up. Now I'm going to share the clip right here, right now, that really got the biggest response. And just to give it some context, is that I asked Dr. Tama about the power of stillness in healing, and listen to what she said.
Some of us don't know we're bleeding, right? Because we're so busy. We're like, I'm good, I got it. And meanwhile, it's coming out. It's showing up in our dating choices. It's showing up in our parenting. It's showing up in the emotional eating. But as long as I keep moving, I can trick myself into believing I'm not bleeding, right? So to be still and aware of myself will give me space to tell myself that hurt, right? It'll give me space to say I'm disappointed, to say I'm frustrated, to say this feels empty, even to say I went after this and it's not what I thought it was, right? Because we do have this piece in social psychology called sunk cost, where the more we give something, time, energy, resource, even though it's not working, the harder it is for us to let it go. You know, it's like people keep putting money in a broke down car, keep putting energy in a relationship that's going nowhere, or a situationship, right? But it's like, I've done it this long, I got to get my payout.
Now, all the views are amazing. I love how more people are discovering this podcast now. Even actress Viola Davis shared it, which was really, really nice. The comments, saves, and shares, they're even better. It really lets me know what's resonating with all of you, so I can be sure to curate our content to what you actually need. But, you know, when we think about it, stillness in terms of an idea is not a mind-blowing concept. And even though we didn't know the term sunk cost, Kenny Rogers had a whole song saying, you know, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. So I just really have been sitting with the idea of why did this resonate with all of us so deeply? And it's because of this, in my opinion, because this Joker is hard, right? It is really, really hard. And I don't even have to think that far back to when I was in this cycle. And if I'm going to be all the way transparent, I think I'm in this cycle about something else in my life. And that's another story for another day. But we're going to focus, right? For most of this year, I have been working nonstop. I was producing a show for cable, then I had clients, then I started this podcast, all while trying to establish the infrastructure of my business. I was working 7 days a week, many, many hours a day. I mean, it got to a point where I just would have I would begin and end the day with in bed with my laptop. It was a problem, right? All in an effort not to fail. That's the whole thing. I just felt like I can't fail. I can't fail. So, this is what work is supposed to look like. By August, though, I was exhausted. Plus, I had attended 2 funerals just days apart. The third funeral was scheduled a few weeks later. And so it made me have to go back and forth to Maryland quite a bit. I always prioritize sleep. So I thought initially I was good because I was sleeping. I am a 7-8 hour a night kind of girl. But I was still so depleted. I would wake up still so depleted. So I thought, okay, it's my anemia. I must be anemic right now. Let me just go ahead and call the doctor, go ahead and get this iron infusion again. It's not as serious as it sounds. It's kind of like a process that I often have to go through. And that requires multiple visits to the doctor. And I had even planned on working during one of those visits because you sit with an IV for however long you have. It's like different times. You sit with an IV just in the chair, just doing nothing. But that was until one particular appointment. So they called me back. I got weighed. I've gained more weight this year than I have in maybe a decade. And even if it's a number that you would be comfortable with, or if you're inclined to say, oh, well, you look fine, you can't even tell, I'm not at my best. I don't like it. So there's that. Then they put you in the room and the nurse does all your like vital signs. And while she was doing the vital signs, the machine started to beep. And she asked me, well, are you stressed out or anything? And I was like, or she said, are you nervous? And I was like, no, I'm not nervous. Like, I've done this before, What the problem was that my blood pressure was way too high. That machine started beeping again. And it wasn't actually like off the charts, but she was concerned enough about it. And when the machine started beeping again, she looked me straight in my face. She said, don't let people stress you out. I know it's easier said than done, but you have to take a walk or do something to make sure that you're just not stressed out. Mind you, I have never told this lady my story. She don't know my life. She don't know my story. She just said that, I don't know. She got a word and she shared that word with me. And guess what? It was absolutely received. I just thanked her. She came back with extra juice and crackers, a love offering, as Black women do, to just try to calm me down, right? So instead of trying to work, I was literally going to have a laptop open and use one hand with the laptop and the other hand would have an IV in it. Clearly, not a good idea. Instead of doing that, after she gave me a whole word and got me together, instead, I just listened to a podcast and relaxed. But for me, that was my sign that something definitely had to give, that the way I was working was unsustainable. And so, not too long after that, actually, I knew I was going to be kind of ending one of the projects. I knew I was going to kind of step away from that. And so I just sped up the timeline. I crunched the numbers first, sped up that timeline, stepped away from the project, that I recognized was no longer providing me value. And it gave me the space that I did not even realize to the fullness I didn't realize the fullness that that is exactly what I needed. Now, I wasn't on vacation. I still had another contract to do. I was signing on to yet another contract. I continuing to do this podcast, which is like a full-time job. And then again, setting up the infrastructure of my business, but I was also able to catch up with people and be very present with them and take different classes about things I was curious about and loved. And I also was able to have an occasional nap. And it was all just so restorative. When I blew up my life, I had planned on taking 3 months off just to get some rest because, truth be told, I wasn't just depleted, I was pretty broken. But I'm extraordinarily high functioning. So people outside would not really know. But I really needed a break. I didn't take one. What happened was that a lot of opportunities came to me, which I am beyond grateful for. And I said yes to every single one. But because I worked that hard during that time, at the very beginning, it has given me the runway to kind of have a little bit more ease in my life in this back half of this year. And so these are the things, though, again, going back to Dr. Tama's um, message of how stillness, this is what I've just been thinking about, is what stillness has meant in my own personal healing. And I truly believe, for me, I am nobody's doctor, but for me, as I kind of like just meditate on this, for me, for stillness to facilitate healing, I think radical honesty is required. Again, for stillness to facilitate healing, I really do believe that radical honesty is required. I was a full participant in my exhaustion, in the boundaries I did not set, in the ways I did not clearly articulate my feelings, in the not being honest with myself about how things made me feel. There are lots of reasons for that I won't get into here, but like Dr. Tama said, that stillness creates a space for you to say that you were disappointed or that things didn't turn out the way you had hoped. And I've had to actually sit with that. But I sat with it with no judgment to myself. I don't qualify my feelings as good or bad anymore. I just recognize that that is what I am feeling. I recognize it, I embrace it, and then I do what I need to do to deal with it, right? But saying it's good or bad doesn't actually help me. That just helps me create a wall to not actually confront the feelings in the first place. So, even in confronting it, some things I was able to kind of like, all right, move through, work on and get tools to like help heal. Some of the things had nice bows tied up at the end, but sometimes they just weren't there. Those places remain tender and disappointing, and I can just honestly acknowledge that. Like like those things might not feel different ever, but they are, and at least I fully acknowledged it, which was really, really helpful to me. I did rest coaching during this time, and I didn't know what it was when I did it. And I was asked, beyond sleep, where do you need to rest? And within the first 10 minutes of the session, and we were going through a meditation and things of that nature, I was already in tears. I was already in tears. I also couldn't answer a lot of the questions that she was asking me about, like, where do things hurt, or where do you need help? I couldn't answer any questions because I was not in tune with myself, and I didn't realize it until she started asking me all of these questions. And her name is Octavia Rahim. Fantastic, gifted woman. It was such a gift to be able to work with her in this way. And she taught me a lot. one of the things she taught me, she said the more she has to do and the busier her life is, the more she has to rest. She taught me that rest is a daily practice beyond sleep. So for me, now it's longer showers, walks to my riverfront, which is not far from where I live, while listening to a podcast, burning candles or incense, while just sitting around and thinking. I now make space for this in my day. Which leads me to the fact that now that I'm rested, I have never, ever, 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 ever been more creative. These are not just passing thoughts. These are ideas that I'm implementing in my business that I can't wait to share with you in the coming weeks. But I get ideas all the time in the shower, brushing my teeth, about to go to bed. Like I've actually gone to sleep, gotten up and written things down because it's just like, oh, I've got all of these ideas now because I'm rested and now I can be creative. And it's so, so fun. It's a fun space to be in. And lastly, creating space has made me so calm. Now, I didn't know how tightly wound I was. In news, everything is a five-alarm fire, sometimes quite literally. You're moving so fast, you're responding to devastation, you're on deadline, you have to be live, you have to be perfect. Whew, now my hair is often crazy, more often than not. I don't wear makeup. I really do, though, need new contracts in the new year. I need to get to where the money resides. But still, I'm not anxious about it. I'm doing the work. I know it will come. Although I don't have evidence of it. Like this is what faith is, right? Um, so yeah, but I'm just so much calmer. When we had Stephanie Perry on the podcast, she was talking about career breaks and sabbaticals. And during the ACT UP segment at the end, she challenged all of us to stop doing one thing. She said it could just be your laundry. Get somebody else to do it. Dominique Broadway, when she was on the podcast, she talked about how it's actually an investment in oneself to pay for other people to help us out, right? She was talking about when she got a nanny after she had her first child and how she wanted to try to do everything herself because her mother had done everything herself, but she really needed help. And she said that when she finally got a nanny, she could finally just again, it's creating that space and spending money. So whether it's somebody to come and clean your house, whether it's someone to come and do your laundry, the whole idea of doing something to create space has been a theme on this podcast. Even last week, Candy Carter talked about it, where she was talking about carving out time in your day. For her, it's in the morning. So if she wants to exercise and go to yoga, she's got to do it first thing in the morning. Or how she wants to live her life on vacation and make a cup of coffee and tea and sit on her porch and just be before the world wakes up, before her responsibilities start pulling at her. So again, this is a constant theme for people who have created the life that they want. This is something that all of them seem to do. Many of them, I should say, seem to do. People are talking about how busy and stressful the holidays are. Not for me, though. See, I love Jesus, but this season is not about to run me ragged. I don't do cards. I'm not going to go broke giving everybody gifts. I don't bounce around from party to party to party. Hell, my family, we don't even do a traditional Christmas, okay? My nephews are grown, so we don't have children around anymore. And a few years ago, I say my family, but it was really my brother, mother, and I. We just looked at each other. It was cold. We were not having fun. And we kind of just decided that it sucked. And instead, we preferred to go on vacation. And the only parameters that we use is that it be warm, there's a beach, and good food. And that's what we do now. We go on vacation for Christmas now. Now that I'm not having the whole news thing hold me back. I still was able to do it while I was in news, but it would always be touch and go every year. Like, can we do it this year? What's Andrea's schedule? Now we don't have that issue. So we're going, and we'll be on the beach. Happy birthday, Jesus. Cheers. Amen. That's what we like. And if that's not your thing, great. If you love the cards and love all of it's like really beautiful. I love receiving them. I love looking at the pictures of your family. I put them on my refrigerator. And when I get the new one, I like looking about how big the kids got in the past year. Or some people are really creative and give a summary of their year and what their kids like. And I love receiving that. But I'm just not gonna, that's just not my style personally. I'm also not being loud on New Year's Eve. I'm not going to be in uncomfortable shoes in a room full of strangers. Nope, not me. I'm going to buy some Trader Joe's flowers, be home with my Prosecco, toasting to the most amazing and impactful year of my entire life. We did it, Joe. We did it, Joe. As a box checker and rule follower, this was the very first year of my life that was a complete blank slate. I didn't know how it was going to turn out when I started this year, and that has never, ever, ever happened before. Usually there are some uncertainties, like if it's a contract year where I know like I'm going to be leaving this station, I'm not quite sure where I'm going, but I know the contract is up on this day, I'm going to be leaving and I'm going to go in this general vicinity of the country because I never just applied all over the country. I always knew kind of like I need to stay on the East Coast and work my way back up north. So I always knew that I'd be in a certain general vicinity, but that's the most uncertainty that I would have. This year, complete blank slate. But it's the year I literally willed, I manifested and co-created this year with the Most High. The year I was able to spend the most time with my family. The year I got to join you on this journey. Grateful. Grateful doesn't even describe both the high points and the valleys. Truly, I am thankful for it all. Now we got a few weeks left in the year and more great content planned for you. I hope this season provides you with hope for the future. And don't forget to pause, y'all, not just to recharge, but to re examine things to see if it's all still working for you, like for real. And if it's not, here's your permission. If you need it, here's your sign to change it. Change what doesn't work for you anymore. Remember, in these parts, this community we are co creating, either you win or you learn. And always remember, your next is within reach. Happy holidays, and we'll see you back here next week.